Across the limestone hills and the ancient olive groves of southern Greece, among quiet villages tucked into the valleys, a silent threat has begun to grow. Wild boars, animals once confined to deep forests and rugged mountain slopes, are now pushing dangerously close to vineyard edges, crossing village roads and stepping straight into the farmland that has sustained Greek families for generations. Each year, this country records more than 30,000 cases of damage, costing agriculture and rural infrastructure between 150 and 200 million euros. A single herd of wild boars can tear through hundreds of square meters of Agiourgitiko vineyards, or devastate an olive grove in just a matter of hours. For many farmers, it's more than the loss of crops. It's the loss of their livelihood, their traditions, and the family pride that has been carried through generations. What has caused Greece's wild boar population to explode beyond control? Is it the warming climate, the growing abundance of food, or the disappearance of natural predators? And more importantly, can we bring their numbers back in check before these lands endure yet another season of loss? Today, we follow the local control teams, the men standing on the thin line between people and the wild, working to hold the balance across the Greek countryside. Here, where farming and wilderness have lived side by side for thousands of years, the responsibility to protect the harvest has never been more urgent. For the families who work these hills, the challenge is about far more than crops or numbers. It's about safeguarding a way of life passed down through generations and ensuring their children and grandchildren inherit a land still worth living on. The explosion of Greece's wild boar population has brought levels of destruction that many agricultural regions here have never seen before. Each year, the country records more than 30,000 incidents of damage, impacting over 350,000 hectares of farmland, from vineyards, wheat and barley fields, to olive groves, citrus orchards, and the Mediterranean herbs this land is known for. The Greek government now spends between 80 and 120 million euros on compensation, while local municipalities are forced to add another 20 to 30 million for fencing, warning systems, and control teams. The olive industry alone, an ancient symbol of Greek identity, suffers more than 15 million euros in losses every year. When all direct and indirect costs are combined, from agriculture and transportation to veterinary impacts, the financial toll is estimated to reach 200 to 250 million euros, a number that has surged dramatically over the past decade. But the economic cost is only the surface. The rooting behavior of wild boars tears apart the forest floor, disrupting native Mediterranean vegetation and threatening low-ground species like the caracal lynx and countless birds that nest close to the earth. If measured in restoration costs alone, the environmental damage could reach 20 million euros every year. And the disease risk is just as alarming. If African swine fever were to appear in Greece, the impact on the livestock sector could exceed 800 million to 1 billion euros, as commercial pig farms would face lockdowns and mass culling. On top of that, more than 7,000 to 10,000 traffic collisions involving wild boars are recorded each year, causing tens of millions of euros in property damage and posing a serious threat to drivers, especially throughout Peloponnese, Thessaly, and Macedonia. All of these layers of damage create an economic, ecological, and social challenge that Greece can no longer ignore. And to understand why the impact has grown this severe, we have to look at the root of the problem itself: the explosive rise of the wild boar population. Over the past few decades, Greece's wild boar population has grown by an average of 15 to 25% every year, far beyond what the Mediterranean ecosystem can regulate on its own. Warming temperatures have shortened the winters, reducing frost, and creating ideal conditions for more piglets to survive the cold season. Meanwhile, vast stretches of corn, wheat, vineyards, and olive groves offer an almost unlimited supply of easy food. At the same time, natural predators like wolves and jackals, once key to keeping boar numbers in check in the Pindos and Macedonian ranges, have declined sharply, leaving the species with virtually no natural enemies. When these three factors converge, Greece's wild boar population surges to an estimated 1 to 1.5 million animals, spreading from the mountain forests of Epirus and Peloponnese all the way to the outskirts of Athens and Thessaloniki. This is no longer the natural growth of a wildlife species. It is a nationwide ecological upheaval. In the early years of the surge, Greek farmers tried to fight back with civilian measures, building fences, lighting fires, installing ultrasonic alarms, even changing their harvest schedules to avoid the herds. Many families spent entire nights in their vineyards and olive groves, holding flashlights and making noise just to keep the animals away. But as the boar populations grew larger and smarter, every effort proved powerless. Entire fields were wiped out in a single night. Disease risks climbed, and the economic losses rose far too quickly for anyone to keep up. At that point, people had no choice but to turn to the only force capable of intervening effectively: the professional control teams. These are trained hunters, men who understand the rocky Greek terrain, the movement patterns of wild boars, and the ecological rules that govern each region. Their mission isn't sport. It's structured, regulated control work. Operations designed to help farmers reclaim peace in their fields and villages. Across Greece, these hunters carry a tradition that stretches back centuries, not for glory, but for the responsibility of protecting their land, their neighbors, and the heritage entrusted to them. From that moment on, the fight was no longer the burden of individual families. It became a community-wide mission. Hunting in Greece was no longer a personal pastime, but an ecological management tool authorized by the state. And in the sensitive farming regions, where a single herd can destroy an entire season's work, the role of the control teams became more important than ever. These teams work hand in hand with wildlife authorities, tracking movement patterns, breeding seasons, and population density to intervene at the right time, in the right place, in the right way. Each operation follows a strict protocol, surveying the mountain terrain, assessing the extent of the damage, identifying the herds that require control, and carrying out the mission within safe, regulated hours. This has never been a spontaneous chase. It is the work of men who shoulder the responsibility of protecting tens of thousands of hectares of farmland and preserving the delicate balance of Greece's ecosystem. Alongside the batu, the afut, or approach, the quiet, patient stalk, is widely used as well, especially late in the season when wild boars grow more cautious. This method relies heavily on analysis and observation. The hunter must read fresh tracks, judge the wind, notice the smallest sound drifting through the dry pine forests, and understand the feeding habits of the boar through each stage of the year. These operations often begin in the earliest light of morning, just as the sun breaks over the mountains, or at dusk, when the herds leave their cover and move out to feed. And to carry out these tactics with absolute safety, proper equipment becomes essential. Greek hunters rely on large-caliber rifles, 7x64, 30-06, or 9.3x62, setups that deliver consistent stopping power and dependable accuracy in the steep, forested terrain they work in. But no matter how capable the equipment is, safety remains the highest priority. Every member of the team is required to wear bright orange vests and caps, making them easy to identify in the dense vegetation where a single mistake could turn dangerous. Strict rules govern shooting angles, lines of sight, and safe bullet paths, ensuring that no one is ever placed at risk throughout the entire operation. And once the preparation is complete, we finally reach the heart of the operation, the moment when strategy, discipline, and years of field experience come together. In nearly every wild boar control mission in Greece, the battue, the coordinated drive hunt, remains the central tactic. It's a method that demands precise teamwork between the hunters, the terrain, and the dogs that support them. Hunters take position at strategic points, known as postes, usually set along natural travel routes, pine and oak corridors, or the narrow paths that wind through the olive-covered slopes. When the signal is given, the beaters move deep into the brush, applying pressure from behind and pushing the herd toward the predetermined line. This organized push-and-guide approach allows teams to control the boar safely, minimizing risks for both the hunters and the communities living just beyond these hills. Breeds like the Hellenic hound, the Istrian hound, and the beagle are trained to scent the trail, follow the boar's movements, and apply pressure at just the right moment to push them out of their hiding cover. They don't engage directly. Instead, they keep a smart, controlled distance, guiding the herd toward the safe designated zones where hunters are positioned and ready. Greece's terrain is filled with thorny brush, sheer rocky slopes, and thick Mediterranean forest, conditions where no modern device, not even drones, can replace the role of these dogs. They are the soul of the battue, the vital link that allows strategy and human coordination to work in perfect harmony. For this system to work, every part of the operation must move in harmony, backed by a strict legal and administrative framework set by the Greek government. Every hunter is required to pass both written and practical exams to earn a hunting permit, ensuring they understand the laws, the safety protocols, and the ecological principles behind the work they do. Each region operates under an annual control quota, calculated from population surveys, damage assessments, and the natural recovery capacity of the land. These quotas aren't designed to push for more harvest. They exist to make sure wild boar numbers are adjusted precisely, not too low, not too high, but balanced to protect the fragile equilibrium of the ecosystem. Greece also operates a dedicated agricultural compensation fund, supported in part by hunters and the regional federations themselves. When vineyards, olive groves, or barley fields are damaged, farmers can apply for relief from this fund. But this system creates pressure in the opposite direction as well. If the control teams fail to meet their targets and the damage continues to rise, the fund can drain quickly. And that reality forces everyone involved to act with responsibility, discipline, and consistency in every single operation. The story of Greece's wild boars reminds us of an important truth. When nature falls out of balance, we cannot stand on the sidelines. Management is not a confrontation. It is a responsibility. A responsibility to understand the ecosystem, to act at the right time, and to protect the very things that sustain our lives. And that is the spirit Famigo Farm hopes to share with you. Real journeys, real challenges, where people work, to preserve the fragile harmony between farmland and the wild. If you'd like to follow more stories like this, leave your thoughts below. And don't forget to stay with us here at Famigo Farm. The journeys ahead are already waiting for you.